मह्यं पदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. No, it's my fortune to get some service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Okay, so we would like to thank His Yugal Shyam Prabhu for kindly inviting us to render some service. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, so welcome to the Bhakti Shastri course. Most of you have done TTC, correct? Only, I think so, Prabhuji didn't do. Both of you. And Vittal didn't do it, did? Okay. So in classroom arrangement, we had taught one point, you remember? आपने कहाँ किया फिर? आपने टीटीसी नहीं किया? But you are already seated in front, no problem. अभी देखो फिर से एक छोड़ दिया बीच में. ठीक है. Okay. So though I know most of you here, but still it's good to begin with a brief round of introductions. So we kindly request you to tell your name and your current services, because some of you are currently doing services in different parts of the world, I suppose, correct? So please tell which loka you are residing currently in. And why are you sitting here? 3 questions clear? You have the mic, you begin.
Next, no, so my name is Nayak Sakhadas. Currently, I am rendering service assisting Yugal Sam Prabhu in Mahat Seva department. And then sloka recitation. Some days before I was reciting that sloka. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Amalam Prema Puanartha Maha.
तो क्या हुआ?
Regarding
Actually, you didn't understand my third question, I think.
And here the purpose behind sitting here is that most of the time, even though we had we have read many times and we have heard many times, but we have not understood or we have not completely applied that part in our life. Just like today in Bhagavatam class also, we got some more clarity regarding demigod worship. So like that, many details are there, but that is not completely understood by us. Or at the same time, we must know the art of presenting others so that we can convince other people and bring them to the path of devotional service.
Okay, good. Thank you. Welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. My name is Shubham. I am from Hinjawadi Center, serving under the guidance of His Grace Madan Sundar Prabhu. And I've been.
So, what's your service there?
I take care of kitchen department. Prabhuji.
Oh,
Yes.
very nice.
And also maintenance and other things at center. So, and I am here because it's very easy for me. Like I have been studying for long, so-called material conditioning is there. So if somehow intelligence and mind get satisfied by hearing and reading, some analytical things are needed for conviction. Otherwise, bhakti is simple. So for that purpose and developing appreciation for Prabhupada, whatever he has given, I thought it's wonderful to do these courses. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. My name is Pratik Prasad, and currently I am rendering service assisting Sonal Gaurangpur in preaching.
And both are related. No? He's cooking and you're Prasad.
And I'm here for learning Srila Prabhupada books more deeply, because first of all, to be oneself convinced of the philosophy which Prabhupada is telling, and also when presenting, we should be from Prabhupada books mostly. Otherwise, sometimes mental concoction takes over. So to understand deeply and to help others to present Srila Prabhupada books nicely.
Okay, thank you.
So my name is Sadhu Sangh Chaitanya Das.
Sadhu is famous.
And currently I am doing service in temple. I have Divya department and sometimes Balaji service also.
That's the prime duty of Sadhu, Jivdaya.
And
very appropriate.
Whenever time permits, then I go to Udgir for youth preaching. Last year I started, and this year also.
Latur.
Udgir in Latur district. And so there we have started youth preaching with His Grace Mahavir Prabhu. And in Pune also we are trying in Gokhale Nagar. So that is near to Ferguson College, and that 2-3 colleges are there near. And my purpose of here is that actually in my case I get more clear understanding when I hear from the teacher, and when in compared to when I read. So that's why, okay, although I have read Bhagavad Gita 1-2 times almost, but most of the things are not clear. Like those topic which I have heard from the teachers, that are clear, but almost many of the chapters I have not heard from the teachers. So when I hear, then it gives me more clear understanding about the subject matter, and then I can apply in my life, and I can able to convince others regarding this. So that is my purpose too.
Good. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. My name is Vitthal Vishnudas. Currently, I am assisting His Grace Shuddha Chitta Prabhu in Vagoli Vice. There I am doing service as a caretaker to the second year boys. Actually, I am here to learn. Actually, yesterday, today only I came from my village, and there Bhagavad Saptaha was going on.
Which village?
And Shirla Neman, it is in Buldhana district in Khamgaon Taluka.
Buldhana. Maharashtra.
Maharashtra. So I saw that there are a lot of hodgepodge philosophies there. And people, they were doing Parayan of Ganeshwari every day, yesterday, 2 days. But before coming to Srila Prabhupada moment, I was not aware about this philosophy and everything. But I could develop greater appreciation how Prabhupada has given everything very distinctly, and we can clearly present the subject matter. But still, there are so many things which are not yet understood. But I would like to hear from a realized soul, one who has taught so many batches from so many years. So it is our
Then
great
you're in the
fortune.
wrong place. If you want to hear from realized souls, you'll have to go somewhere else. Maybe Radhakund is a better place.
It's very great fortune to hear from you, Prabhuji. So that we can do nice. My friends are there, so in their association we can do Krishna Katha. I had a long cherished desire that Bhagavad Machitta Matagata Prana Bodhayanta. From that verse we can
You already
experience.
know so many shlokas.
No.
Okay, thank you. अरे ना line में जाओ.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I am Vamshidhar Gopesh Das.
Vamshidhar
Gopesh Das.
Gopesh.
So I serve under His Grace Anand and Radha Pankaj Prabhu, taking care of preaching VWT voice and then IIIT Pune.
Which was?
VWT voice.
Where is that?
VWT is here, near. VIT is a
Acha.
college and it has an expansion college.
Acha.
And along with that, we have started new college preaching in last year in IIIT Pune. IIIT Pune, Indian Institute of Information Technology.
Where is that?
It's in near SIT Pune. Singangad College is there. Their campus. Currently, they are rented in some other campus, but they have their own campus somewhere in Pune.
Okay.
And along with that, I sometimes cook in festivals in community kitchen. Then sometimes I assist in DT kitchen, morning cooking. And then one more, Prabhuji, although I have read Bhagavad Gita once or twice, but I always felt that, if there can be a Sangha where it can be, the two a Sangha where we have most of us equals, where we don't hide out something to ask or maybe question sometimes things little longer or multiple times. I thought it will be better to understand Bhagavad Gita so that it goes in a single flow, understanding it from back and forth and then quoting, requoting and everything. And I always thought Prabhupada always wanted his followers to be lawyers in terms of quoting his books at least. So with that, we are very far behind in that what Prabhupada wanted. So at least something came closer to what Prabhupada wanted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Govinda.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My name is Govind and I am currently rendering service in the health department. And I am here to study and understand.
Which health? Physical health or spiritual?
Physical. For spiritual health, I came here, Prabhuji.
Oh, I see.
So I'm here to understand and study and understand Gita nicely and deeply and the way Prabhupada wanted us to study it.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My name is Ujjwal Nilmani Das. Currently I am doing service in Judea in here and in Bilaspur preaching. Some 10 days I go to Bilaspur from 10-15 days. I came here so that I can deepen my understanding of all the Krishna conscious knowledge we have, so that I can never get diverted from Krishna consciousness and always stay in this path and give to others whenever opportunities.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Myself Praveen. I am serving in Ahmednagar temple in kitchen department.
That's a lot of kitchen people here, huh? Good. So every day there should be a feast here, huh?
And I'm here to understand two things. First, to understand Bhagavad Gita deeply, and second, to understand the mood of Prabhupada.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My name is Sudhanshu Gangurde. I am currently serving under His Grace Varadraj Prabhu for Symbiosis preaching and also serving in Central Voice.
Which Symbiosis? There are many branches of Symbiosis.
Lovely.
Huh?
Symbiosis Lovely. It's near Baner.
Oh,
The
the
big-
near
bigger-
Bana-
bigger
okay,
campus,
that
yes.
was the main one. The
Correct.
main one, no? That is the
Huh.
oldest.
No, oldest is in Senapati Bapat Road.
Senapati Bapat Road, which you are talking about?
Lovely. Near Baner, it's around
Okay,
Baner Pashan
okay.
area.
That's another one, huh?
Correct. It's biggest campus of Symbiosis there.
Acha.
So we're trying to start preaching there.
Mhm.
And also I'm serving in Central Voice under Antardeep Group for some of the sevas there.
Okay.
And my purpose of like especially I want to understand in what depth Prabhupada has really given to all of us, and what was the main means like how the main flow goes of entire scriptures that our acharyas have given us, and how we can most of the times as we see that Bhagavad Gita is ABC of spiritual knowledge, but sometimes we are not even clear in some crucial aspects of Bhagavad Gita are not known to us when we read it alone. So if we, at least as Sadhu Sangh Chaitanya Prabhu also said that when we hear from somebody, I personally feel get to understand more when I hear from.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, fine. So in the beginning, we will see a few quotes of Srila Prabhupada stressing the importance of reading his books. Okay, maybe you know some of them, but just to revise. So again, we read in line, so there's no confusion who reads next.
Every temple should be educational center. Brahmanas means they are teachers. So every temple should be an educational center and the Brahmanas should be engaged. They should be properly educated and they should teach others also. In this way, temple means education in spiritual life.
So, of course, you have seen this quote at the beginning of the TTC course also, if you remember. So, Srila Prabhupada wanted our temples to be not just bell-ringing temples, but then he wanted them to be educational centers where devotees are like brahmanas, they teach, they study the scriptures. And especially for brahmacharis, definitely one of the important activities is swadhyay. So that's definitely an important activity. And Srila Prabhupada himself, he started these 4 Shastri courses. You're well aware of that. Okay, next.
Read or fall. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 25.278. All of the devotees connected with this Krishna consciousness movement must read all of the books that have been translated, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure.
So what is the first word here? All the devotees. So Srila Prabhupada is giving an instruction for all the devotees without exception. Which devotees? Connected with this Krishna consciousness movement. This. There could be many others also, but this. That is ISKCON. And what is the next word? Must. That means not optional. Not optional. Must read. What is the next word? All of the books. All the devotees must read all the books. So Prabhupada is giving instruction for everyone. Sometimes we think we didn't get any instructions from our spiritual master or this or that. But you see, Prabhupada is given instructions. For whom? For everyone, he has given instruction. They must read all the books that have been translated. And of course, he's specifying the more important ones. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And another book which Srila Prabhupada very much emphasized was Nectar of Devotion. And then Srila Prabhupada is saying, what will be the result of not reading? The result will be what? There's only one other option. So if one doesn't take spiritual life seriously, then only one other option: eating, sleeping, and enjoying. Or sometimes Prabhupada would say eating, sleeping, dancing. Of course, that is dog dancing. So, and then the result will be one will fall down from the position and one will miss the opportunity to attain eternal blissful life of transcendental pleasure. Next.
Answer to all questions. Study Bhagavad Gita as it is and Srimad Bhagavatam and continue to help your God brothers in developing Krishna consciousness. Develop your preaching in this way, and this will be the most successful and appreciated endeavor. When you study very carefully all of the literatures which are available, especially Bhagavad Gita as it is, you will have in your grasp answers to all questions that may be put to you. Please encourage the others to read this Bhagavad Gita at least one chapter every day.
Okay, so here Srila Prabhupada is encouraging devotees to read. What is the first word here? Study. Study. Not just read, study. So study Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and help your God brothers in developing Krishna consciousness. Develop your preaching in this way. Which way? On the basis of the scriptures. So if we don't have proper scriptural knowledge, then our preaching will be whimsical. Then so many mental concoctions will be there. Then that type of preaching will not be very successful. Therefore, Prabhupada is saying, develop your preaching in this way, on the basis of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the result of that will be most successful and appreciated endeavor. So that's how preaching should be done. It should be done on the basis of the scriptures. And then again he says, what? When you study very carefully. So here is added something more also. Study very carefully. Again, what he says? All of the literatures which are available, but especially Bhagavad Gita as it is. Then the result will be you will have, yes, you will have in your grasp answers to all questions that may be put to you. So simply by studying Bhagavad Gita, one can get answers to all questions because it is ABCD. Is there anything beyond ABCD? No, ABCD till Z is all alphabets, correct? So therefore, by studying Bhagavad Gita as it is itself, one can get answers to all questions because the basic knowledge is all there. And so therefore, he is writing, please encourage others to read. How much? One chapter of Bhagavad Gita per day. Not one verse, one chapter. So expectations are quite high. So hopefully someday we'll be able to come to that.
Free from all doubt. I want you leaders especially to become absorbed in the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and become yourself completely convinced and free from all doubt. On this platform, you shall be able to carry on the work satisfactorily. But if there is a lack of knowledge, or if there is forgetfulness, everything will be spoiled in time. So especially you must encourage the student to read our books throughout the day as much as possible and give them all good advice how to understand the books and inspire them to study the things from every point of view. Better to boil the milk very vigorously and make it thick and sweet. That is the best progress. So let us concentrate on training our devotees very thoroughly in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness from our books, from tapes, by discussing always, and in so many ways instruct them in the right propositions. Later to Hamstuta.
So Srila Prabhupada is writing this letter especially to the leaders. So here all leaders are sitting. managing different centers in different parts of the world. So Prabhupada is writing to all the leaders to become what? Absorbed. Absorbed. Consciousness has to be absorbed. So you see, Prabhupada is not talking about some superficial reading. He's using these words: study, study very carefully, become absorbed. So, of course, many of you said you want to deepen your understanding of Srila Prabhupada's book. So that's basically what is meant by being absorbed in the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and become yourselves completely convinced, free from all doubt. On this platform, which platform? Without doubt, when one is convinced and one does not have doubts, because doubts are compared to demons, yes. So, when there are no doubts, one is convinced, on this platform you shall be able to carry on the work satisfactorily. But if there's lack of knowledge or this forgetfulness, everything will be spoilt in time. In time. धीरे धीरे होगा. तुरंत पता नहीं चलेगा. So gradually, everything will go down. Slowly, slowly, things will go down when one is not properly convinced of the philosophy. So therefore, he is telling the leaders to encourage the students to read our books throughout the day as much as possible, give them all good advice. And here we know this well-known example of boiling the milk. Boiling the milk. Prabhupada has written right in 1972. Prabhupada is talking about boiling the milk. So when milk is boiled, what happens? It becomes thick. How it becomes thick? Yes, the water gets evaporated. The water content goes, then the milk becomes thick. It is called rabdi. So similarly, so what is meant by boiling the milk in this connection? So here what Prabhupada is telling everyone to make rabdi, or what is? Good. Good. So the water content is compared to doubts, anarthas. So when one is properly convinced of the philosophy, one nicely practices Krishna consciousness, then the doubts, the anarthas, all of them will evaporate. And then everyone will become like rabdi, sweet devotees, sweet to associate with. And so then, so how that can happen? Concentrate on training our devotees very thoroughly in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness.
See Krishna face to face. Nowadays, it seems that many of the older disciples like yourselves are having difficulty. If you do not set the example for the younger students and take the responsibility for instructing them in the right line, how will things go on? Try to always study our books and see our philosophy from different lights of directions. Become convinced yourself of this knowledge, and without a doubt, all your difficulties of mind will disappear forever, and you will see Krishna face to face. Later to Sri Bhagavatananda.
So here Prabhupada is again addressing older devotees. Of course, in 1972, how old they were? Hardly 5 years. Hardly 5 years. 5, 6 years. I'm sure here everyone is more than that, correct? Definitely. And of course, we don't know about previous life. But then, that time itself, Srila Prabhupada is writing, many of the older disciples are having difficulty. And so therefore, he's saying that you must set the example for the younger students, take responsibility for instructing them, And so therefore, again, he's saying what? Study our books and see philosophy from different lights of directions, different angles. So that's a proper understanding. And then the result of that will be, again, doubts, difficulties will disappear. And then the ultimate result is seeing Krishna face to face.
Steadiness. Yes, as a sannyasi and GBC, your first duty is to read my books. Otherwise, how will you preach? In order to remain steadily fixed in Krishna consciousness, there must be a sound philosophical understanding. Otherwise, it will become only sentiment. Whenever you find the time, please read my books.
So you see, again here Prabhupada is writing this to whom? Satsvarup Das Goswami. And he is addressing sannyasis, GBCs. He's saying your first duty, not last duty, first duty is to read my books, not other books. Prabhupada is read my books. Otherwise, how will you preach? So without reading the books, how one will preach? So then it will all be mental concoction. So therefore, if one wants to preach effectively, then one has to read Srila Prabhupada's books, study Srila Prabhupada's books. And then he says, in order to remain steadily fixed in Krishna consciousness. So how long we want to practice Krishna consciousness? Huh? Only this life, huh? That is good answer. Life after life, eternally. So if we want to remain steady that way, then Prabhupada says there must be a sound philosophical understanding, otherwise it will become only sentiment. So what does sentiment mean? Just doing what? Rituals. Okay. Something more? What is the meaning of sentiment? Right. So it's simply mental platform. Sentimental or mental platform. Mental platform means what are the functions of the mind? Two functions. Sankalpa and Vikalpa, accepting and rejecting. So on the mental platform, what will happen? So today everything is going nice. Mind will say, oh, Krishna consciousness is very nice. Today all the devotees are behaving very sweetly today. There is sweet in the prasadam also. Everything is very sweet today. So Krishna consciousness is sweet, very wonderful. But then tomorrow something happens. Somebody says something, somebody insults. Mind will say, very difficult. This process is very difficult. Especially staying in brahmacharya ashram, very difficult. Better find a good place outside. So many buildings are coming up around. So that is mental platform, sankalpa and vikalpa. But the nature of the material world is the difficulties, challenges, problems are 100% going to come. Correct? Wherever one is. So therefore, as one devotee was saying that, so one should not simply remain fair weather devotees. You heard this? Fair weather devotees. When the weather is fair, when the weather is good, today it's very good, right? Pleasant weather. So then Krishna consciousness is good. But in the scriptures we read, even the most elevated devotees have so many difficulties, so many challenges. Practically nobody is spared. That is the nature of this world. Nobody is spared. So in those situations, if we want to steadily practice Krishna consciousness, then at least we can take shelter of our philosophical understanding. And whatever degree of realization we may have, we can take shelter of that. In those difficult times especially. If the philosophy is clear that yes, this is the nature of the material world, But this is, as they say, temporary inconvenience for. Ah. So then when the philosophy is clear, then one will, ठीक है, चलता है. This is only for few days. How many days, especially Kali Yuga? How many days? Few years. Few years. So then after that, it's all wonderful, eternal life. So therefore, if we have that proper philosophical understanding, that philosophical understanding is like the foundation of our Krishna conscious life. So these big, big buildings, so they have good foundation, correct? I don't know how many of you seen, but I was seeing that there's one building coming up right beside that Seva office building, correct? So I was watching that construction. So they were making foundation, such deep foundation they were making. So much they dug deep inside, and then they were. So now that upper structure is coming, but so much went down. So if that foundation is not proper, then what will happen to the big building? Especially when there is a storm. Especially when there is a storm, cyclone, earthquakes. These days, all these things are increasing, correct? So then in those situations, if the foundation is not strong, then there's every possibility that beautiful building, externally very beautiful, falls. Sometimes we read, some bridges also fell down. Especially in India, people use all cheap material. But when you go to the building, so yesterday we went to Hinjewadi, nice big, apparently beautiful buildings. But how many glorify the foundation of that building? Anybody came to that building and said, oh, foundation is very nice. So because nobody glorifies the foundation, there is a tendency to what? Neglect the foundation, correct. Because nobody glorifies. So how many times it's announced in the morning, so and so devotee chanted 16 rounds very nicely yesterday. Or so and so devotee read so many hours of Prabhupada books. No, nothing like that is announced. So therefore, because that foundation is not so much stressed, sometimes there is a tendency to not give sufficient focus on that foundation. And then everything could be simply on a sentimental platform. And then, just like the building could collapse. So then after some years, some difficulties, challenges, storms come in spiritual life, then everyone is wondering, since so many years he was practicing, what happened all of a sudden? He just went away. What happened? So that is why the foundation has to be strong, and Prabhupada says, whenever you find the time, please read my books. Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada was in Juhu, Giraj Maharaj writes in his book that how all those devotees Prabhupada had called so many devotees from different parts of the world, and and then after some time, they were not having so much of service. So then Srila Prabhupada, so the leaders were asking Srila Prabhupada, so what these devotees supposed to do? Prabhupada said, tell them to come and sit together and read the books. So Prabhupada wanted that. Okay. Next.
Read and apply. Yes, reading my books will help you. Philosophy must be there. But if you do not also apply the philosophy by participating in all temple affairs like rising early, attending Mangalarati, performing devotional service, the simply learning the philosophy will have no effect.
Yes. So here Srila Prabhupada is talking about another important aspect, and that is the application of the philosophy. So as the other day, Radhesham Prabhupada was saying that we don't want devotees to simply become bookworms. So therefore, it is not that we simply read and don't do anything about it, but we need to apply. The application is important. It's not simply for a scholarly reading, but then one needs to apply the philosophy, apply the teachings, apply the instructions that are there in the books. And here Prabhupada is talking about participating in all temple affairs, rising early, Mangalarti, and whatever services, doing all that. Then simply learning the philosophy will have no effects. No effects. Maybe some of you heard about that person who did PhD in Jaydev Goswami's Geet Govind. Heard, no? So he did PhD. Just think about it. PhD he did in Geet Govind. But what was his doubt? He did PhD in Geet Govind. He knows all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Yet his doubt was why to accept Krishna as Supreme Lord and worship him. Then what he understood? So he simply wasted all his time. So therefore, in one purport, Prabhupada gives the full form of PhD as plowing department. You read, and it's there in second canto. If you don't believe, you do a Veda-based search. Second canto. Prabhupada gives full form of PhD as plow department. Keti. So plowing the brain. But nothing came out. Only plowing. So waste of time. So that is what will happen if one does not apply. Then there will not be any realization. So Krishna also speaks, we'll be discussing Gyan and Vigyan. So one Prabhupada disciple, he was saying, one drop of realization is more valuable than liters and liters of information. Because that one drop of realization is what will keep one steadily going in one's practices. So we don't want simply information. What we want? Realization. Sakshatkar. Or it's also said Pustakiya Gyan and Anubhavi Gyan. And that is those are the Hindi words for Gyan and Vigyan. Pustakiya Gyan, Anubhavi Gyan. So from Anubhav, so when one applies, there is Anubhav, there is experience. And from that experience, there is realization. So just like we all have experience of eating rasgullas and gulab jamuns, correct? So if somebody, even in the dream, somebody comes and tells you, rasgulla is very bitter, will you accept? Why? अनुभव. कितने साल का अनुभव है? So because of that anubhav, what happens? One is convinced. Prabhupada is talking about being convinced, no? So one is convinced beyond any doubt that rasgulla is 100% sweet unless the cook made a mistake. He put citric acid instead of sugar. Both look similar, you know that? We had some experiences and correct. So the point is, we have that anubhav. So then we are convinced. So similarly, if somebody asks, how is Krishna consciousness? Is it sweet or bitter? Huh? So, क्या बोल रहे? Poison in the beginning, nectar in the end. अभी कौन सा stage है? Poison है, nectar है? बीच में है. हाँ. So the point is that if we are convinced by the experience, if we are convinced, Krishna consciousness is wonderful. So then, whoever says what, even if 1,000 people come and say, "Oh, this Krishna consciousness is useless, waste of time," still, if one is convinced, then whatever one says, one will not deviate. One will never give up. That is the meaning of what? Realization, realized knowledge. That is the meaning of realized knowledge. So that realization comes from what? Yes, from the practice. When there is practice, there is experience. And when there's experience, then there is realization. And when there's realization, then one is fixed, one is convinced. That is why Srila Prabhupada emphasized on both the things. So one has to read, then one has to apply and experience the joy of Krishna consciousness. Then one can distribute it to others. Next.
Nothing outside Srila Prabhupada books. There is no need of any of my disciples to read any books beside my books. In fact, such reading may be detrimental to their advancement in Krishna consciousness. Except in certain authorized cases. For example, to read some philosopher like Plato to make an essay comparing his philosophy with Krishna's philosophy. But otherwise, all such outside reading should be stopped immediately. It is simply another botheration. If my students cannot even read my own books thoroughly, why should they read others? I have given you
Teachings of Lord
teaching
Chaitanya.
of Lord Chaitanya. What need is there to read Chaitanya Charitamrita translated by someone else? You are right to stop such reading.
So here Srila Prabhupada is saying there is no need. There is no need to read any books besides my books, unless one has some specific service to do so. Otherwise, Prabhupada says, what's the need? So therefore, we'll be discussing these points later on also. But the important point is that, again, one needs to have that faith and conviction that there is everything in Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada has given us everything in his books. You must have heard this example of His Holiness Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj. What? अरे आनलाओ जी बोलो क्या विठल पर आपने सिर हिलाया? Okay, so he gave the analogy that if one swims,
just floats on the surface, he will just get pebbles and some, but if he goes deep inside, he will get the ratnas out of it.
Correct. So if one swims in the superficial parts of the ocean, one will only get some fish, that too small fish. But if one goes deep, then one will get the jewels and rubies and sapphires. So therefore, the problem is when devotees go through Prabhupada's book superficially, फिर एक रीडिंग के बाद क्या है? सब जानते हैं हम, सब बहुत बार पढ़ ली. So then to read next time becomes boring. But then if one goes deep, then one will understand that the ocean is fathomless, bottomless, so deep, there is no end. That is what will happen if one scrutinizingly, deeply studies Prabhupada's books. Then every time one reads, one will experience newer and newer realizations. One will experience something new, because Krishna is what? Nava Yovanam, ever fresh, ever new. And so the scriptures are not different from Krishna. And so therefore, it all depends upon our sincerity and our attitude and the way we read. So if we have, as Srila Prabhupada is telling in these letters, studying very carefully, scrutinizingly, different angles of view. So if there is that proper way of studying, then every time one reads, there's something new. It will never be boring. And then one will be fully satisfied simply by reading Prabhupada's books. Yesterday we were reading from the 4th canto where that example is given. You remember you were there? The bees. I think so. You were not in that class. You're not, right. So the Prachetas, in their prayers to the Supreme Lord, they're giving a very beautiful example, analogy. They're saying that just like when the bees go to the Parijata tree, the flowers of the Parijata tree have unlimited honey. And so the bee is fully satisfied with that Parijata tree and does not go anywhere else. So similarly, one who has taken shelter of Lord Shri Krishna's lotus feet, then he tastes such unlimited nectar in those lotus feet that he does not feel the need to go anywhere else. He is fully satisfied. So similarly, if one reads Srila Prabhupada's books with the right attitude, then one will experience so much of unlimited nectar that one will never feel the need to go somewhere else. Having said that, at the same time, of course, we have so many of Srila Prabhupada's senior well-known disciples who have written books. And so definitely we can also read those books. But then again, I'm sure this analogy everyone knows, Kadam Kana Maharaj's analogy. What? The staple meal of rice, dal, sabji, chapati and chutney or sweets. So everything else should be like? Yes, like the chutney. So little bit reference here and there. That is fine. But the chutney should not fill the whole plate. Anybody tried that? Only chutney. Chutney feast. You can, even if it is sweets, one day is okay. If you do 2 days, only sweets. Very sweet time you'll have in the bathroom. फिर दिन भर गमछा में रहो. So, therefore, if you don't want to face indigestion, then keep the chutney in its right place. So that is very important. And that always applies true. Correct? Does it, after one becomes 50 or 60 years old, the chutney principle changes? It remains the same, correct? So the same thing applies to reading Prabhupada's books also. Anybody has any objection to this? No, you can raise objections. We will deal with them. Okay, next.
Understand from varieties of angles. I'm very much stressing at this point that all of my students shall be very much conversant with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and that they should read our books very diligently, at least 1 or 2 hours daily, and try to understand the subject matter from varieties of angles.
So how much reading? And how to read? Very diligently. And diligently मतलब क्या है? Carefully, attentively, not like novel. Very diligently, at least 1 or 2 hours, and understand the subject matter from varieties of angles. So, just like in a Bhagavatam class, we have one subject matter that is trying to be understood from different angles, different scriptures, different references. That is the meaning of trying to understand from varieties of angles. Next.
Read and follow. In my books, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is explained fully. So if there's anything you do not understand, then you simply have to read again and again. By reading daily, the knowledge will be revealed to you. And by this process, your spiritual life will develop. You may please me the most by reading my books and following the instructions therein.
So here Srila Prabhupada is giving the solution. If one does not understand something, what one must do? Read again. I'm forgetting this pastime as long as Giraj Maharaj tells. But he tells this pastime of how one devotee was asking Srila Prabhupada the meaning of something from his books. So Srila Prabhupada made that devotee read that same thing 2-3 times. And after that, he asked the devotee, so have you understood? The devotee said, yes. So I think so. We all have some experience like that, isn't it? One time we read, we don't understand, but next time we read, we understand. Why? So we read thoughtfully, and Krishna is pleased with that endeavor. And as Prabhupada is writing here, what he has written? Yes, by reading daily, the knowledge will be revealed to you. So spiritual knowledge is a matter of revelation. Divya Gyan, Ridhe Prakashito. It is revealed. It is not a matter of simply reading. But if one makes that sincere endeavor to read carefully, then everything will be revealed. And that's how the spiritual life will develop. And you may please me the most by reading my books and following the instructions. So not just reading, but also following. I'm sure many of you may have heard this lecture of Srila Prabhupada.
Serve with knowledge. A devotee in Mayapur once got up to live in the middle of one of Prabhupada's lectures. Where is he going? Prabhupada asked. He has some work to do, a devotee answered. This drew fire from Prabhupada. What work? Nonsense. Unless you hear, what work can you do? It will just be a karma unless you hear. We cannot just read the books and do nothing for the spiritual master. But neither can we serve without the knowledge gained by reading the books. As Prabhupada states in the letter quoted above, we must both read the books and follow the instruction. This is combination that pleases the spiritual master the most.
How many of you have heard the lecture? No one heard. It's a recorded lecture. Prabhupada gave in Mayapur. It's on Queen Kunti's prayers, chapter 8 of the first canto. You can hear it. So almost it's in the beginning of the class. Srila Prabhupada just has begun the Bhagavatam class, and one devotee begins to go out. Immediately Prabhupada says, where is he going? And somebody says, he has some work to do. And then that's what Prabhupada says. And of course, the whole quote is not here. So Prabhupada says it will simply be Ugra Karma. It will simply be Ugra Karma. Ugra Karma means what? That's not necessary, or materialistic work. Ugra Karma means materialistic work. Because, see, everyone is doing some work. Like we are selling books. Aren't the materialists selling books? They are also selling. We are cooking. Materialists don't cook. They are also cooking. Work is the same. What makes the difference? Huh? Yes. The consciousness makes the difference. But then how will that consciousness develop? By the proper hearing and chanting. That's how the consciousness develops. And so Prabhupada goes on to say that if you don't regularly hear and chant, then after some time you will say, why has my old spiritual master given this burden of the Archa Vigraha? The Archa Vigraha will become Galagraha, a big stone tied around the neck. That means the service will simply become a burden, a big burden. And how long one will continue carrying the burden? Not too long. And then Prabhupada further goes on to say, so in our temples, if there is no regular hearing and chanting, then these big buildings will simply become places where pigeons will build their nests and pass to. So therefore, as Satsvarup Maharaj is mentioning here, that there must be that proper balance. So he says, we cannot just read the books and do nothing for the spiritual master, but neither can we serve without knowledge gained by reading the books. So the appropriate balance has to be there. So the balance between reading and applying, following the instructions, that appropriate balance is very much essential. And of course, in our discussions, we may discuss further on these points, but that is what is important. Okay. Now, this is a quote more specific to Bhakti Shastri. See, if you're having difficulty seeing, you can come a little this side, no? Actually, you want that connection.
Aims of Bhakti Shastri. I think you may have already heard that in January of 1970, we will be holding an examination among all of our students on this book. And those who will pass shall be awarded with the title of Bhakti Shastri.
Okay, so right in 1970. Now it's January, huh?
With these examinations, I wish to encourage all my disciples to very carefully learn this philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because there are so many preachers required to bring this message to all of the corners of the earth.
So that was the purpose. The purpose is that so that there are experienced preachers who can preach in all corners of the world. That's the purpose.
Examinations. Next January, there will be an examination on this Bhagavad Gita. Papers will be sent by me to all centers, and those securing the minimum passing grade will be given the title of Bhakti Shastri. Similarly, another examination will be held on Lord Chaitanya's appearance day in February 1970, and it will be upon Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Those passing will get the title of Bhakti Vaibhava. Another examination will be held sometime in 1971 on 4 books: Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and the Nectar of Devotion. One who will pass this examination will be awarded the title of Bhakti Vedanta. I want all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit this title of Bhakti Vedanta so that the family transcendental diploma of Bhakti Vedanta will continue through the generations. Those possessing the title of Bhakti Vedanta will be allowed to initiate disciples. Maybe by 1975, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the numbers of the generations. This is my program. So we should not simply publish these books for reading by outsiders, but our students must be well versed in all of our books so that we can be prepared to defeat all opposing parties in the matter of self-realization.
There's a good quote to show the Ritviks. Prabhupada is saying, all of my disciples will be allowed to initiate and increase the numbers of the generations. So you see, Prabhupada, when he has written this? 68. Right? So this is called visionary. So right in 1968, the movement has hardly started. See, 1966, Prabhupada just registered the society. 67, half of June 67, Prabhupada came back to India because of the stroke. So hardly anything. And right here in 68, Prabhupada is talking about all this. So you can see Prabhupada's vision and how he is talking about all these degrees. So this is what Srila Prabhupada actually wanted. And he wanted these, and there are many other quotes also where Prabhupada says this is something similar to BA, MA, PhD, like that.
Brahmana, Pandita. In this way, you have to understand by studying carefully the philosophy. We have got so many books now, and I want all of my disciples to read them carefully. Soon we shall be instituting Bhakti Shastri examination, and all Brahmanas will have to pass.
So that is why this has now become compulsory. And this was Prabhupada's instruction right in 1976, but it took many years to actually implement it. Now it is gradually being implemented. But you see, Prabhupada wrote in 1976. And similarly, there's another quote where Prabhupada says that for sannyasis, Bhakti Vaibhav is compulsory. So that is also yet to be implemented. So far, it's only Bhakti Shastri compulsory. Maybe in few years, that will become compulsory for sannyasis. Next.
Also, you must see that the Brahmanas are given sufficient time to read the books. Soon we shall be introducing the Bhakti Shastri examination, which all Brahmanas will be expected to pass. It will be based on Bhagavad Gita, the nectar of devotion, the nectar of instruction, Ishopanishad, and the small paperback books like Easy Journey. A Brahmana should be Pandita.
So Prabhupada wanted some additional books also besides these 4. Fortunately, they're not there. So Prabhupada was responding to accusations by many Indians that the devotees at that time, they had Brahman initiation, but they were not sufficiently read with the scriptures. So some of the Indians especially were accusing. And that's when Srila Prabhupada made these statements.
After the students studies the Vedas under the master for some time, at least from age of 5 to 20, he may become a man of perfect character. Study of Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character.
This is one of those golden statements of Srila Prabhupada. Study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. So you know what's recreation of armchair speculators? Prabhupada talks about in his lectures also. So they're sitting around tables, discussing Vedas and smoking and drinking chai. And they're discussing Vedanta. What they'll understand. So that is what is recreation of armchair speculators. So that is not the purpose of studying the scriptures. The purpose of studying the scriptures is what? Formation of character. That is the main purpose. And we all know the famous story of Romarshan. So he was very learned, and he was speaking very eloquently, but then he didn't stand up to receive Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram, what he thought? Such a learned person, disciple of Vyasadeva himself, but still he has no good qualities like humility. And therefore, all his learning is simply a waste of time, like an actor playing his part on stage. And then Lord Balram thinks, I have come to put an end to all such hypocrites and establish real dharma. And that picks up Kushagras, finished. So Lord Balram, the Adi Guru, very graphically shows what is the purpose of studying the scriptures. It's not simply for scholarship, not to simply become a Pandit, but to apply that knowledge, transform one's heart, and develop character. That is the purpose. So, therefore, this purpose must be very clear. So, we are not here simply to become dry speculators or scholars, but the purpose is to apply and bring about a change, a revolution in what? Consciousness. Yes, a revolution in consciousness. Tadva viplavo janata. Yes. Viplav means revolution. So before revolution, others' consciousness, first of all, there must be revolution in my consciousness. Then some revolution will happen outside. So therefore, that is the main purpose, not simply academic study. Okay. So these are a few quotes. Okay, one more. So this is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So any learning process at three broad stages. The first is Shravanam, hearing knowledge from the teacher. So it doesn't end over there. But the next stage is Mananam, gaining an intellectual understanding by reflecting on what is learned. So Mananam means contemplation on what has been studied. So that is basically what is Madchitta Madgata Prana. So it is not only just that we hear, we read, but then afterwards we can discuss, we can contemplate. So that is the Mananam. Prabhupada gave the example of? Yes, the cow after eating, then she ruminates on what has been eaten. So similarly, after hearing, after reading, there must be some Mananam. Okay, I've heard this, I've read this, how can I apply? What could be the challenges? What's the proper understanding? So that mananam can be there. And then the third stage is nididhyasana, that is realization and living according to this realization. Then the learning is complete. Then the learning is complete. Not that one simply hears something, okay, we have heard the class. It was good class. Okay, very nice. Or as His Holiness Loknath Maharaj sometimes says, ikudun tikudun, ikudun. So, huh? Correct. So the similar thing, put in another words, 4 stages of learning. Aditi, to learn subject thoroughly. Then there is Bodha, to gain insight and proficiency in one's learning. That is similar to Mananam. Then there's Acharan, that is realizing the purpose. That is similar to Nididhyasanam and living according to the learning. And finally, there is Prachar, giving the knowledge to others. So for Prachar to effectively take place, the first 3 need to be there. So, proficiency means expertise. Okay, quote from Prabhupada, please read.
Without aim, what is the use of practice? If you have no goal, there is example. Man without any aim is ship without any rudder. So suppose if airplane is going with an aim to land in some country, but if he goes on simply without any aim, then there will be disaster. So without aim, what is the use of practice? That is foolishness. Without goal, practicing is foolishness.
So we must have definite goals, aims for our Shastric study, and then we must be very clear about why we are studying. Then we will try to achieve that. So the purpose is not simply a piece of paper called certificates. That is side business. But the main thing is what? Applying ends and what? Just now we read. And what? Just now we read, no? Study of the Vedas. Yes, formation of character. That is the most important thing, to bring about that change. So that is what we need to see. Okay, you got those handbooks now there? Distribute. This is the right time. Can I just have a look? Okay, so basically, so initially you see the course structure. So you all know this course structures, Bhagavad Gita, six chapters. So there are basically 6 units. Okay. And okay, we'll just discuss mainly the course assessment on page number 12. Okay, you can see the previous pages, you can see there is a unit-wise assessment. So it is a unit-wise assessment, okay? So for every unit, there's closed book assessment, open book assessment, and shloka. So the closed book assessment, so it's a written test, usually 50 marks, 1 hour, 30 minutes. So 80% of questions will be from the question banks that are given over here, but there can be 20% from outside also. Okay. And then something about open book assessment is also given over there. You can go through that. Maybe we'll discuss that a little bit more in details later on. And then shlokas for memorization. Of course, that's quite childish for most of you. I'm sure this number needs to be increased. So, and then on the next page, you can see the passing percentage. So everything passing is per unit. Huh? It's not an aggregate pass. It is all per unit, per component. Okay. So one needs to pass in open book assessment, closed book assessment, shloka test for every unit. Okay. So open book assessment passing percentages 60%. Closed book assessment, the passing percent 65%, shloka also 65%. Attendance is minimum 75% per unit. Everything is per unit. All right. Of course, this sadhana thing here is something else is there. But anyway, it is 75% per unit. Of course, these are online closed book tests and all that. Okay. And so you can see that, so the other things you can read, some assessment policies and all that you can read for yourself. And so you can see that there are closed book questions for every book, for every unit. There are closed book questions. So you can prepare them. and some questions will be asked mostly from here. 80% will be from here, 20% could be from outside. And similarly for open book assessment also, the questions, the fixed questions are given over there for every unit. So you're supposed to answer these questions. Of course, there's a big list of open book questions towards the end of the book, but then we have already selected the ones we want the students to write, and that's what you find here. Too simple, correct? ये लीजिए. Any questions so far? Okay, one final quote of Prabhupada.
Assessments. Prabhupada always encouraged devotees to write. Realization means you should write. Every one of you. What is your realization? What you write, you write your realization. What you realize about Krishna. That is required. It is not passive. Always you have to be active. Whenever you find time, write. Never mind 2 lines, 4 lines, 2 lines, 4 lines, but you write your realizations. Shravanam Kirtanam. Writing or offering prayers, glories. This is one of the functions of a Vaishnava.
So writing is important. Prabhupada also said, to remember means to remember to write. So therefore, writing essays, open book assessments, so that's all. Writing one's realizations. Okay. Any questions? Hmm. हाँ. So basically, what is realization? You want to have a proper understanding of what is realization. You read first canto, 4th chapter, verse number 1 purport. 1.4.1 purports. Prabhupada gives the most beautiful, comprehensive understanding of what is meant by realization. Okay, so you read that, and after that, if you have doubt, you can ask. So that is what, it can be done personally, but best is amongst devotees. That is what we can discuss amongst devotees. Contemplating on what we have heard, what we have read. So that is manana. That is what devotees are supposed to do when they meet. Discuss on what has been read, what has been heard. That's contemplation. Okay? Okay, good. So we'll take a break now. 10 minutes break. And then we will continue. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we'll start the Bhagavad Gita in the next session. And somebody can get a Bhagavad Gita for me also. So we'll give you the slides in PDF format at the end of the unit. All right, no? That's what we did for previous batches also. क्या? हाँ, ब्रेक. The introductory part of the Gita. Okay, please do.
The Gita is divided into 3 groups of 6 chapters. In the first 6 chapters, the Jiva, an Amsa of the Lord, is shown to have a Swarupa to be employed in devotion to the Lord, the Amsi source of the Jiva. The first 6 chapters shows that realization of the nature of Jiva is accomplished by Niskama Karma, which contains within it Jnana. In the middle 6 chapters, this Bhakti, the means of attaining the Lord, who is the source of the Jivas and the supreme object of attainment, along with a revelation of the Lord's power, is explained. In the last 6 chapters, the true nature of the Lord and the other items which were previously mentioned are described in detail. All 3 groups of chapters have indication of karma, jnana, and bhakti. But by predominance of the subjects of these chapters, they have been described here. At the end of the Gita, there is a statement of bhakti in the form of complete
Surrender.
surrender. This is like a short
inscription
written
on the top of a jewel box indicating its contents. Okay, so basically what he's saying here is, as we know, there are the 3 sections of the Gita. The first 6 chapters predominantly speak about Karma Yoga, the middle 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga, the last 6 chapters, Jnana Yoga. Important point is, all 3 groups of chapters have indications of Karma, Jnana, and Bhakti, but by predominance. So the first 6 chapters predominantly have Karma Yoga, but there are also elements of Bhakti. And similarly, the middle 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters. And finally, the statement of full surrender, that is Sarvadharman Parityaja, which is like an inscription written on the top of a jewel box. So jewel box with a label, that's the inscription. So the Sarvadharman Parityaja verse is like that inscription, the label on top of the jewel box, indicating what are the real contents within the box. Okay, Vishnu Thakur's commentary.
Bhakti Yoga is placed between Karma and Gyan Yoga because of its confidential nature, because of its superiority by which it is able to give life to the other two, and because of its being most rare. And moreover, because these two are useless without Bhakti, only by being mixed with Bhakti do they become acceptable. Being placed in the middle, it is not so obvious. Since it is in the middle, it touches the other two, giving them life. If the 6 chapters concerning Bhakti were placed at the beginning or the end, they would only touch one of the other topics. Therefore, it is protected by the other two topics on either side.
Okay, so here is explaining why Bhakti Yoga is in between. So he's giving 2 reasons why Bhakti Yoga is in between. The first reason is, yes, to give life to karma and gyan. That means both karma and gyan require some bhakti for completion. This will become more clear as we discuss the later chapters of the Gita. But then without some element of bhakti, one cannot even be successful in the practice of karma yoga or jnana yoga. And so bhakti is in between, so it touches karma and gyan on either side, thus giving life to both. So this is the most important reason why the specific location of the bhakti yoga section is in the middle. And the other point is that it is protected. So bhakti yoga is the most important, most essential, most precious. Anything that is precious needs to be protected. And so therefore, it's kept in between, is protected by karma and jnana on either sides. Some devotees explain it in this way. Sometimes it is found that some commentators, unscrupulous commentators or bogus commentators, they comment only on the first 6 chapters and say that the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is karma yoga. And they miss out the middle 6 chapters. So in that sense, the middle 6 chapters are protected from wrong commentation. So that is also one of the ways by which the protection is assured. Okay, so now next we will go to the preface. We'll read the entire preface and we will see what aspects of Prabhupada's mood and mission are there in the preface. The preface has been written by Srila Prabhupada himself. Okay, so one paragraph, one devotee can read.
Preface. Originally, I wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is in the form in which it is presented now. When this book was first published, the original manuscript was unfortunately cut short to less than 400 pages, without illustrations and without explanations for most of the original verses of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In all of my other books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Ishopanishad, etc., the system is that I give the original words, its English transliteration, word for word Sanskrit English equivalents, translation, and purports. This makes the book very authentic and scholarly and makes the meaning self-evident. I was not very happy, therefore, when I had to minimize my original manuscript. But later on, when the demand for Bhagavad Gita as it is considerably increased, I was requested by many scholars and devotees to present the book in its original form. Thus, the present attempt is to offer the original manuscript of this great book of knowledge with full parampara explanation in order to establish the Krishna consciousness movement more soundly and progressively.
So here, the important point of Prabhupada's mood and mission is what? Yes, so Prabhupada wanted to present the Bhagavad Gita as it is, meaning according to the parampara, so that the Krishna consciousness movement is established on a very solid foundation. So That's what Srila Prabhupada wanted to do by giving Bhagavad Gita as it is. Okay, continue.
Our Krishna consciousness movement is genuine, historically authorized, natural, and transcendental due to its being based on Bhagavad Gita as it is. It is gradually becoming the most popular movement in the entire world, especially amongst the younger generation. It is becoming more and more interesting to the older generation also. Older gentlemen are becoming interested so much so that the fathers and grandfathers of my disciples are encouraging us by becoming life members of our great society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In Los Angeles, many fathers and mothers used to come to see me to express their feelings of gratitude for my leading the Christian consciousness movement throughout the entire world. Some of them said that it is greatly fortunate for the Americans that I have started the Christian consciousness movement in America. But actually, the original father of this movement is Lord Krishna himself, since it was started a very long time ago, but is coming down to human society by disciplic succession. If I have any credit in this connection, it does not belongs to me personally, but it is due to my eternal spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad Paramhans Parirajkacharya
Ashtotatra.
Astotar Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada.
So here we can see an important point of Srila Prabhupada's mood. What is that?
To his spiritual master
Yes,
and
he is
Guru
not
Parampara.
taking credit for himself. He is giving credit to his spiritual master. And of course, we know Srila Prabhupada, so many times he did that. So many times Srila Prabhupada says in his lectures that sometimes people come and say that you have done some magic, but I have not done any magic. The only thing that I've done is I've simply repeated the words of my Guru Maharaj. So Srila Prabhupada always gave credit to his spiritual master. And here is explaining how people are appreciating the Krishna consciousness movement. Okay, next.
If personally I have any credit in this matter, it is only that I have tried to present Bhagavad Gita as it is, without any adulteration. Before my presentation of Bhagavad Gita as it is, almost all the English editions of Bhagavad Gita were introduced to fulfill someone's personal ambition. But our attempt is presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is to present the mission of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Our business is to present the will of Krishna, not that of any mundane speculator like the politician, philosopher, or scientist, for they have very little knowledge of Krishna, despite all their other knowledge. When Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru, etc., we, unlike the so called scholars, do not say that Krishna and his inner spirit are different. Krishna is absolute, and there is no difference between Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, and etc. This absolute position of Krishna is difficult to understand for any person who is not a devotee of Krishna in the system of parampara, disciplic succession. Generally, the so-called scholars, politicians, philosophers, and swamis, without perfect knowledge of Krishna, try to banish or kill Krishna when writing commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Such unauthorized commentary upon Bhagavad Gita is known as Mayavad Bhashya, and Lord Chaitanya has warned us about these unauthorized men. Lord Chaitanya clearly says that anyone who tries to understand Bhagavad Gita from the Mayavadi point of view will commit a great blunder. The result of such a blunder will be that the misguided student of Bhagavad Gita will certainly be bewildered on the path of spiritual guidance and will not be able to go back to home, back to Godhead.
So what's the important point here? Okay, the authenticity of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, yes. So it says that our business is to present the will of Krishna, what Krishna wanted to present. So it is not what I think or you think, but it is simply to present the will of Krishna as it is. And so Prabhupada is talking about, as he did so many times, Man mana bhahamad bhakto, then some commentators interpret it as One must surrender to someone within Krishna and not to Krishna. So, of course, Srila Prabhupada openly spoke about Dr. Radha Krishna, who commented in that way. And His Honor's Giriraj Swami Maharaj, in his new book, The Dancing White Elephants, that book is released. Yes, it was released in Vrindavan. It has not yet come here, I suppose, right? So in that book, he writes about this pastime of Srila Prabhupada going to meet Dr. Radha Krishna in Chennai in 1976, I suppose. And so at that time, Dr. Radha Krishna was totally invalid. He was in a wheelchair, old and crippled. And when Srila Prabhupada went to meet him, so he had a nurse who brought him on the wheelchair. Srila Prabhupada spoke something. After a few minutes, the nurse said, "Oh, the doctor is very tired. He needs to take rest." And she took him away. But then later on, Srila Prabhupada commented to the devotees that because of his Mayavad interpretations of the Gita, the result is this condition. So that's what Prabhupada commented. So that's Mayavad commentation. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mayavad bhashya shunle hoy sarvanash. So therefore one must be careful not to read these bogus commentaries, but then accept the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Okay, continue.
Our only purpose is to present this Bhagavad Gita as it is, in order to guide the conditioned students to the same purpose for which Krishna descended to this planet once in a day of Brahma, or every
8 billion, I think, right?
860 crores.
860 crores.
Yeah.
So that's
crores.
8. Yes, that's 8 billion. Okay, go ahead.
This purpose is stated in Bhagavad Gita, and we have to accept it as it is. Otherwise, there is no point in trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita and its speaker, Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna first spoke Bhagavad Gita to the sun god some hundreds of millions of years ago. We have to accept this fact and thus understand the historical significance of Bhagavad Gita without misinterpretation on the authority of Krishna. To interpret Bhagavad Gita without any reference to the will of Krishna is the greatest offense. In order to save oneself from this offense, one has to understand the Lord as a supreme personality of Godhead, as he was directly understood by Arjuna, Lord Krishna's first disciple. Such understanding of Bhagavad Gita is really profitable and authorized for the welfare of human society in fulfilling the mission of life.
So here, what's the main point? Yes, we have to accept this fact. Yes, that's right. So it's not something new. Srila Prabhupada would often say that the Krishna consciousness movement is not some new movement, but actually it is Krishna's movement. And to interpret Bhagavad Gita without any reference to the will of Krishna is the greatest offense. In order to save oneself from this offense, one has to understand the Lord as the Supreme Personality of God, as is understood by Arjuna. That comes later on also in the 10th chapter. So just like Arjuna accepted everything what Krishna spoke, so there Srila Prabhupada writes, one must emulate this mood of Arjuna. Emulate. Emulate means to follow. So just like Arjuna, he didn't accept some parts of the Gita and reject some parts. He accepted everything. Sarvam etad ritam manye. So one has to accept everything that Krishna has spoken, just like Arjuna did, and one has to follow in his footsteps. Then one will be able to understand. Continue.
The Krishna consciousness movement is essential in human society, for it offers the highest perfection of life. How this is so is explained fully in Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, mundane wrangles have taken advantage of Bhagavad Gita to push forward their demonic propensities and mislead people regarding right understanding of simple principles of life. Everyone should know how God or Krishna is great, and everyone should know the factual position of living entities, of the living entities. Everyone should know the living entity is eternally a servant, and that unless one serves Krishna, one has to serve illusion in different varieties of three modes of material nature, and thus wander perpetually within the cycle of birth and death. Even the so-called liberated Mayavadi speculators has to undergo this process. This knowledge constitutes a great science, and each and every living being has to hear it from for his own interest.
So the purpose of the Gita is to understand what here Prabhupada says everyone should know how God or Krishna is great. Everyone should know the factual portion of living entities. Everyone should know living entities eternally servant. What does it indicate? That's what Srila Prabhupada has spoken in so many lectures. Bhagavad Gita is not meant only for Indians or only for Hindus. As Srila Prabhupada would say that in the English dictionary, it is mentioned that Krishna is, yes, a Hindu god. But then it is not that Krishna is only for Hindus or only for Indians. Therefore, Prabhupada is making that specific point. Everyone, everyone. So whether one is Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Indian, American, whatever, the principles apply to everyone. Another point which Srila Prabhupada repeats many times, this knowledge constitutes a great science. So Bhagavad Gita is a science. Spiritual knowledge is a science. So what is science?
Knowledge with
एक जन बोलो. Okay, so science is something which is proved. Okay, fine. Okay, and before that? There's hypothesis, then there is observation, and then experimentation, correct? No? First there is hypothesis, na? Then there's experimentation, and then observation. Okay, that's correct. So whatever, so the point is that science means something which is applicable everywhere at all times. Prabhupada's famous example is hydrogen plus oxygen gives water. So that applies to Indians, that applies to Americans, that applies in India, that applies in America, it applies everywhere. That is science. Correct? So similarly, this is a science. If you have seen Nectar of Devotion, right on the cover page of Nectar of Devotion, what Prabhupada writes? The complete science of Bhakti Yoga. Below Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada writes, the complete science of Bhakti Yoga. So it's a science. So that means if this is theory, if one accepts the theory, puts it into practice, the result is guaranteed. Whoever does the experiments. That is the meaning of science. Therefore, Prabhupada says everyone, it applies to everyone. And of course, Srila Prabhupada proved it. That everyone, it's applicable to everyone. Okay, continue.
People in general, especially in this age of Kali, are enamored by the external energy of Krishna. And they wrongly think that by advancement of material comforts, every man will be happy. They have no knowledge that the material or external nature is very strong, for everyone is strongly bound by the stringent laws of material nature. Living entity is happily the part and the parcel of the Lord, and thus his natural function is to render immediate service to the Lord. By the spell of illusion, one tries to be happy by serving his personal sense gratification in different forms, which will never make him happy. Instead of satisfying his own personal and material senses, he has to satisfy the senses of the Lord. That is the highest perfection of life.
The Lord wants this and He demands it. One has to understand this central point of Bhagavad Gita. Our Krishna conscious movement is teaching the whole world this central point. And because we are not polluting the theme of Bhagavad Gita as it is, anyone seriously interested in deriving benefit by studying the Bhagavad Gita must take help from the Krishna conscious movement for practical understanding of Bhagavad Gita under the direct guidance of the Lord. We hope, therefore, that people will derive the greatest benefit by studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, as we have presented it here. And if even one man becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, we shall consider our attempt a success.
So what's the important point here? What's the central point? Prabhupada saying, what's the central point of the Gita?
Satisfying the senses of Krishna.
Yes, by satisfying senses of Krishna, one can actually become happy. Otherwise, people are making so many different attempts to become happy, but they will never become happy unless one tries to satisfy Krishna. That's the central point of the Bhagavad Gita, which the Krishna consciousness movement is trying to spread. And we can see Srila Prabhupada's utter humility. At the end, Prabhupada says, even if one person becomes a pure devotee, that is the success of the movement. So Srila Prabhupada didn't, as Srila Prabhupada himself said in many lectures, we never tried to make many followers. And he says that if I would have compromised the 4 principles, I could have got millions of followers. But Prabhupada never compromised. Prabhupada wanted quality. And here also we can see Prabhupada says, one pure devotee, that is success of the movement. So that was Srila Prabhupada's mood. But then, of course, Srila Prabhupada did create so many pure devotees, hundreds and thousands. Fine, so that's the preface to the Bhagavad Gita. And now we begin with chapter 1. Overview of the chapter. So, these I suppose you have in your handbooks also, these overviews. So first verse is Dhritarashtra's doubts, 3 to 11, Duryodhana's diplomacy, 14 to 20, signs of victory for the Pandavas, 21 to 27, Krishna's Bhaktavatsal, 28 to 46, Arjuna's 4 reasons for not fighting. You have it? Page number 50. Okay, verse 1. I'm sure everyone knows this verse. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kim makurvata Sanjaya. O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra desiring to fight, what did they do? Read the first paragraph of the purport.
Purport. Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. There it says, there it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personal motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is a specific standard of Bhagavad Gita. Sorry. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna.
Okay, so here Srila Prabhupada is explaining that how one should understand the Gita. How one should understand? So one has to understand the Gita from a devotee, not from some other interpreters who have some personal motivations in interpreting the Gita, as Prabhupada says, making a business on the words of Krishna. Then one will not understand. So one has to understand the Gita from a devotee. And of course, we are fortunate to have Srila Prabhupada's commentations on the Gita. So we have a proper understanding. And one has to understand it in a disciplic succession. So that's the important point. And another important point Prabhupada says is, one will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. And that, of course, we will again discuss in the 7th chapter. In the 7th chapter, 2nd verse, Krishna says that having known this Gita, then there is nothing else needed to be known. So the Gita contains everything. So the other scriptures have some preliminary knowledge. They don't have everything. But as Prabhupada says here that the Gita contains everything that is there in other scriptures and much more. So I'm sure you must have had discussions on this verse many times before. So what are the important points in this verse? हाँ बोलो माइक में बोलो.
Kurukshetra is a dharma kshetra. So like
what is the significance of that?
In the sense that Pandavas being on the side of dharma, they would be getting the benefit of being in, because Kurukshetra is also dharma kshetra. And another thing.
Okay, that's one point. Somebody else? What else?
Since Dhritarashtra was having anxiety, that since it is dharma kshetra, my children's mind may get changed and they may become devotee and stop the war, so that his position will be lost.
Right. So he had doubts that they may compromise. They may compromise and may give up the fighting. Yes, that's another point. Next,
it shows that narrow-minded mentality of the Dhritarashtra, that he is asking about his son Mama Kaha and separating the Pandavas.
Yes, that shows his attachment. It shows his material attachment towards his own sons. Mamaka Pandavas. He's separating his sons from the Kauravas. Yes. Or the Kauravas and the Pandavas, is separating them. Okay, somebody else? Ujjwal?
I have heard from one lecture of senior that here Dhritarashtra is attached to his own seat.
Yes.
We hear that he is attached to the sons, but he is more attached to his seat also.
Why do you say that?
Because he is saying who is going to win. He is now just checking with Sanjaya. So he is also fear of his seat that he has to leave it.
Yeah, so basically what did they do indicates his anxiety over what his sons will do. So in any case, so whatever we speak on any of the verses of the Bhagavad Gita must be in accordance to what the acharyas say. Okay, so everything must be in line with what the acharyas say. So let's first of all we will read Prabhupada's purport and then we will see some commentaries of other acharyas. Okay, please read.
The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjay are described in Mahabharata from the basic principle for this great philosophy. form the basic principle for this great philosophy. This is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of Vedic age. It was spoken by Lord when he was present personally on this planet for the guidance of mankind. The word Dharma Kshetra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjay, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in the field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as the place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven. Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably because of because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjay was a student of Vyas, and therefore, by mercy of Vyas, Sanjay was able to envision the battle of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on battlefield.
Okay, so here, actually, Dhritarashtra's question, what did they do, has no meaning. Because when people assemble on the battlefield, what they will do? They will fight. They're not going to have some big feast or something. So, in one sense, the question has no meaning, but the question indicates his anxiety. His anxiety is what? His anxiety is that the Dharma Kshetra will influence the minds of either the Kauravas or the Pandavas, and they may give up the battle, which he did not want. Why? Because he was confident that if the battle takes place, they will win. He was confident of that. And so his question indicates the anxiety which he had, that they may make a compromise. That's what Prabhupada writes. He did not want to compromise between the cousins and the brothers. And also, another point Prabhupada says is, he knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably. Dharma Kshetra. Dharma Kshetra. So because it's a holy place, so he thought that the holy place would influence the Pandavas favorably. But at the same time, he was also confident that because there are powerful warriors like Bhishma on our side, so definitely we'll win. And therefore, he did not want a compromise in the fight. And of course, the important point for us is that the place has a great influence on our consciousness. As Srila Prabhupada spoke many times, there are different places in different modes. So which place is mode of ignorance? Yes, where sinful activities like intoxication and all taking place, brothels, gambling houses, so all this is mode of ignorance. Mode of passion, cities. Mode of goodness, forests and temples. Yes, so they are transcendental. As Prabhupada said, all my temples are in Vaikuntha. Okay, the next paragraph.
Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family. But Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out, so it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious fields of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's sons, Duryodhana and other would be wiped out and then thoroughly and the thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthira would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharma Kshetra and Kurukshetra, apart from their historical and Vedic importance.
So another importance is Kshetra. So the Kshetra is being compared to field, Khet, Kshetra. So later on also Krishna compares the body to the field in the 13th chapter. So here also the Kshetra is being compared to a field. And so just like in the field, the farmer, what he does? Uproots the weeds and throws them away so that the crop can grow nicely. So here, who is the farmer? Krishna. Krishna is the transcendental farmer. And then what he's going to do? Take out the weeds of irreligion, and allow the real crop of dharma in the form of the Pandavas to grow. So that's the analogy being given for Kshetra. And so that's what is being given by the previous acharyas. And that's exactly what Srila Prabhupada is giving. So Dharma Kshetra, it's a religious fields. Okay, so read this commentary, Babal Devi Devotion.
This is happening at Kurukshetra, a place of dharma. The Shruti says, Yadanu Kurukshetram Devanam Devayajnam Sarvesham Bhutanam Brahma Sadanam. Kurukshetra is a place for sacrifice to the Devatas by those who are like the Devas. It is the abode of Brahman for all living beings. Javalopanishad, first verse. From this, we understand that it has become famous as a place for increasing dharma. Under its influence, will my sons give up their animosity and give the kingdom to the Pandavas? Or will perhaps the Pandavas, who are always following dharma, consider at this place of dharma that it is best to go the forest out of fear of committing adharma in the form of destruction of the family traditions by fighting? O Sanjaya, destroyer, by the mercy of Vyasa, you have destroyed all attraction and repulsion within yourself. Therefore, you should speak the truth to me.
Okay, so here, Dhritarashtra's question indicates the doubt that either his sons, the Kauravas, by the influence of the Dharma Kshetra, will give up the fighting, or the Pandavas, who are always dharmic, they may go to the forest and say, okay, we don't want the kingdom, no fight, no kingdom. So he has this doubt, and that is the significance of his asking this question. And here he says that the word Sanjay means the destroyer of attraction and repulsion. So by the mercy of Vyas, so Sanjay was very pure, and therefore he could actually have this darshan of the Kurukshetra battle while being in the room with Dhritarashtra. And the other points by Vishnu Thakur. Read.
Then both sides would have intelligence to see that they should not kill their own relatives and friends and would negotiate peace. Externally, he desired to show Sanjay that he would be relieved if this were so. Internally, however, he found it hard to restrain his depression. For if there were a conciliation, then it would be difficult for his sons to claim the kingdom. As Bhishma, who is on our side, cannot be defeated by Arjuna, it is better that we fight. Let that happen. It was not suitable, however, to show such desires externally.
So his question, what did they do, indicates that externally he was showing, oh, it's nice if there's no fight. Better if they compromise and there's no fight. So therefore, externally he is asking that question with that intention. But internally what? Internally he wants the fight. Why? Because he's confident that they will win because there are powerful warriors like Bhishma. But he didn't want to show that externally. Okay, and this is the analogy which Okay, read this.
There is a hidden meaning in the word Kshetra, field, in the phrase Dharma Kshetra. The field was a place for growing the grains of Dharma in the form of pious Yudhishthir, who was the very incarnation of Dharma along with his supporters. The field, a place of exerting oneself in the work of cultivating, was the place in which Krishna, nourisher of the Dharma, would encourage Yudhishthir. The field, a place for many projects like blocking irrigation, dikes, and watering, was the place where Krishna would assist Yudhishthir in many ways to establish the grains of Dharma. The same field is also a place for weeds to grow. The weeds, enemies of the grains in the form of Duryodhana and others, also grew there, but would be destroyed by Krishna.
Okay, so that's the analogy of the field. You got something? Mm. Mm. Yes, so that is also there. So he was, so further down again, Prabhupada writes, na, that he knew very well that this would influence the holy place, would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably, because by nature they were all virtuous. So he had all these doubts. So he had doubts that they may compromise the battle. Either his sons would compromise or Pandavas would compromise. So on one hand, as we saw in the commentary, on one hand, he was confident that they would win because they were powerful people like Bhishma. On the other hand, there was doubt also because it's a holy place and it may influence the Pandavas favorably. So all these doubts he had. And because of all these doubts, therefore, he's asking that question. What did they do? Huh? So this discussion between Dhritarashtra and Sanjay. So that's this entire Bhagavad Gita is being discussed, is being told by Sanjay to Dhritarashtra, isn't it? What Krishna spoke to Arjuna was also heard by Sanjay, and that is what he's telling to Dhritarashtra. And that is the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. So the topic discussed is Bhagavad Gita. Yes, for this great philosophy. So this discussion between Dhritarashtra and Sanjay, which is nothing else but the discussion between Krishna and Arjuna, which he's reporting, it forms, so this Bhagavad Gita philosophy, this Bhagavad Gita, what is being discussed, it forms the basic principle of this ultimate philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Right? The Bhagavad Gita is the, as Prabhupada said many times, the ABCD. So the basic principle for this entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Or as Prabhupada has written in the previous paragraph, theistic science. So the entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness, this is the basis. That is what Prabhupada wants to say. Okay, Srila Prabhupada has given lectures on almost all the verses of this chapter. Okay, in London in 1973. So we have taken a few quotes from there. So this is on the first verse. Please read.
So our process is that we are getting experience about the perfect knowledge, the destination of life, simply by hearing from Krishna. So we are the most intelligent persons. It is not possible to experience directly, but if one has got intelligence, then simply by hearing and considering and thinking over it, he gets the experience. So those who are very sinful, they get experience by hearing and by directly seeing also. Still they cannot check from sinful activities. So Dhritarashtra by his sinful activities, he became so much fallen that he did not hear anybody's advice, Vidura's advice, Bhishma's advice, that don't plan like this. They are rightful owners. The Pandavas, they are rightful owners. They are minor, but don't try to cheat them. But Dhritarashtra was.
Okay, so he's making the point that One who's intelligent, he hears and he understands. But one who's not so intelligent, then he has to hear, he has to experience, but still he may not understand. So Dhritarashtra was in that category. So he was hearing the good advice of Vidura, Bhishma. He was experiencing so many things, but still he did not want to listen because of what? Yes, because of material attachments. Okay, second verse. Sanjaya uvacha दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानिकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा आचार्यम् उपसंगम्य राजा वचनमब्रवीत्. Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words. So here Srila Prabhupada writes that Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. So he did not have material vision also, he did not have spiritual vision also. And he knew very well that his sons were also equally blind in the matter of religion. They were sure that they could never reach and understand with the Pandavas who were all pious since birth. Okay. And further down, Prabhupada says, Sanjay wanted therefore to encourage the despondent king and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjay therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhan, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhan is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician. But Duryodhan's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Now, the next section from 3 to 11 are a series of verses indicating Duryodhan's diplomacy. So now what I request you to do is, since you may have already read this before, so make a list of various points indicating Duryodhan's diplomacy. Maybe you can discuss with whoever is sitting beside you and come up with some points indicating Duryodhan's diplomacy in these verses from 3 to 11. Okay, so I'll give you some 5 minutes. So you see what are the points indicating Duryodhan's diplomacy? Done? Okay, 2 minutes more. उज्जवल प्रभु, आप लोग कुछ तो डिस्कस करो, नहीं तो दोनों समाधि में जाएंगे. Okay, fine, that's enough time. So let's hear something now. Okay, so Govind Prabhu, tell us one point.
In the verse 3, we can see that Duryodhana is saying that to Dronacharya that you already committed a mistake. That you taught them all the secrets of military.
He taught whom?
The Pandavas and the son of Drupad, son of Drupad. Even though he was
What is his
your
name?
Drupad.
Whom he taught?
Drishtadyumna.
Drishtadyumna. Drishtadyumna.
Yes, yes.
So,
even though he was son of your enemy, he taught him you did one mistake, but now don't make another mistake.
correct. Yes, that's the first point of diplomacy. Is that he's saying Pandu Putranam, Pashyatam Pandu Putranam. So he is indicating, behold, the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada, Drupada Putrena, Drupada Putrena. So by indicating Drupada Putrena, so he is talking about how you have made one mistake by instructing Drishtadyumna on military science, even though you knew that he would be your killer. Okay, next. One more point.
Says about it, in the 11th verse, he says about like all of you try to help Bhishma. First, he glorifies Bhishma and he feels that others should not feel bad.
Correct.
So diplomatically, he says that all right, you also not so less, but try helping out because he's old.
Yes, so that's in the last verse. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at respective strategic position of entrance. So he's encouraging, as Prabhupada explains purport, he's encouraging all the other soldiers also, because previously he glorified others like Bhishma and Arjuna.
So in
नहीं आपका हो गया, आपका एक ही ग्रुप है, आगे.
The thoughts दुर्योधन के थॉट के ऊपर है। लास्ट में जो द्रौपदी का वस्त्र हरण हो रहा था, तो उस टाइम पर किसी ने भी कुछ ऑब्जेक्शन नहीं लिया, मतलब ग्रेट जनरल्स जो असेंबली में थे उस टाइम पे। ये भी अभी वही सोच रहा है कि उस टाइम पे किसी ने भी पांडवों का सपोर्ट नहीं दिया, तो इस टाइम पे भी वो मेरे साथ ही रहेंगे। तो डिप्लोमेटिक थॉट, तो इसलिए
ठीक है, वो डिप्लोमेटिक थॉट तो था, लेकिन यहाँ कैसे एक्सप्रेस किया उसने?
तो उसको कह रहे थे कि बाकी सब लोग इनको सपोर्ट करो, भीष्म को सपोर्ट करो। तो वो सोच रहा था कि वो सब मेरे सुनेंगे, कि मैं जो बोलूंगा वो सब सुनेंगे।
ठीक है, ठीक है, ओके फाइन, नेक्स्ट।
So, in the verse number 4th and 10th, he's specifically taking name of Bhima and Arjun, because he had great fear if anyone could kill him. That was Bhima, and he knew the strength of Arjun. So whenever he compared their army, he compared with Bhima and Arjun.
Okay, so he's comparing all the other soldiers with Bhima and Arjun because he knew that Bhima and Arjun are very powerful. Okay, fine. Nice.
Being an intelligent politician, he first compared the strength of others, just measuring the strength of the opponent side. That's why he gave a description regarding the other party. Then he started speaking about himself, his own strength.
Yes, that's correct. So you're also a good politician. Any other points?
This is not mentioned here, but I heard that this Bhavan, he first indicates Dronacharya and then Bhishmascha.
Which verse?
8th verse.
In the 8th verse.
He addresses Dronacharya first by the word Bhavan and then Bhishma. And indirectly he indicates that you are more important, Dronacharya. You are first a Brahmana, then he is a Kshatriya.
Yes, that's also correct. Yes, that's correct. In the 8th verse. Okay, so now we will go verse by verse. And we will see that how practically in every verse there is Duryodhana's diplomacy. 3rd verse already has been discussed. And I'm sure all of you know that story, right? Of Drupada and Dronacharya. So now in the 4th verse, he says, here in this army, which army? Pandava's army, are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna, great fighters like Yodhana, Virata, and Drupada. As Nayak Sakaprabhu already has mentioned, that he's first estimating the power of the enemy. So first of all, one has to understand how powerful the enemy is, right? So therefore, first of all, he's talking about the Pandava's army. And within that, he's saying that the most powerful are Bhima and Arjuna. But not only just Bhima and Arjuna are powerful, but there are also others who are equal like Bhima and Arjuna. So you can see that how Duryodhan, without directly saying, he's indirectly, diplomatically indicating to Dronacharya, the commander, that the opposite side is very powerful. Don't take them lightly. That's what Duryodhan wants to convey. But he doesn't say it directly. He doesn't say, hey, the other party is very powerful, be careful. Huh? So that is too gross. Na? Then Dronacharya may feel, who are you to tell me this? So therefore, indirectly he's saying that same thing. Indirectly he's saying. So he's saying that how there are others who are equal to Bhima and Arjuna. That is, and in the 5th verse he's saying, besides these, there are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kunti Bhojan, Shaibya. So in 4th and 5th he's basically indicating the power of the opposite side, the Pandavas army. And in the 6th verse also, there are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamauja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters, Maharatha. So all these are what? Maharatha, Maharati. You know that then? Ardharati, Maharati, Atirati. So what are the definitions of the three? That's what I said. No? Ardharati, Rati, Maharati, and Atirati. With one person. Correct. 1-to-1. Yes. One against 1,000. 10,000? Yes, Atirati is many, thousands. Yes. So here he says all these are Maharathis. All these are Maharathis. Now, after hearing this, Dronacharya may think, oh, the enemy is very powerful. He may feel a little discouraged, no? Oh, they are so powerful. Then relax, relax. Then in the 7th verse, he says, but for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force. So first he said the other party is very powerful. Then Dronacharya may feel discouraged. So now he says, no, but listen to the power of our side also. Our side is not less. Why? 8th verse, there are personalities like you. Who's you? Bhavan, Drona, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava were always victorious in battle. So he's saying, हम कुछ कम नहीं है, हमारे पास भी महारथी लोग हैं, बहुत सारे महारथी हैं. And as who pointed out this? Somebody? Yes. So first he addresses Drona, because Drona is a Brahmana. Even though Bhishma may be more powerful, if he would have told Bhishma's name first, then Dronacharya would feel bad. But Bhishma is a Kshatriya and Drona is a Brahmana. So therefore, he addresses Drona first, Bhavan, and then Bhishma. So this is all diplomacy, very subtle. Another point here is, now all of these are also Maharathis except one. Who's that? Vikarna. Vikarna is not a Maharathi. Rest all are Maharathis. Why does Duryodhan include him in the list of Maharathis? Yes. Vikarna was the only person who spoke against the disrobing of Draupadi. Everyone else was silent. Vikarna was the only person who spoke against it, even though he was on the Kaurava side. So now Duryodhan is afraid that this Vikarna may go to the other side. So therefore, to pacify him, he is putting him in the list of Maharathis. समझ में आ रहा है ना? No, he was not Maharathi. To encourage him and prevent him from deflecting to the opposite side. Nowadays you find, after the elections, there is what is technically called horse trading. You know that? So people, they pull खींचादानी, थोड़ा मेजॉरिटी चाहिए उसको खींचो, होता है ना? महाराष्ट्र में बहुत हो गया. So that was what Duryodhan was fearful of. He was fearful that Vikarna may go to the other side. Therefore, he puts him in the list of Maharathis. Okay. And then in the 9th verse, he says, Anyecha bhavasura mad arte tyaktva jivita nana shastra praharana sarve yuddha visharadha. So he says, okay, these Maharathis are there, but not only these Maharathis, there are many others also. Don't be discouraged. There are many others also. And what is their quality? Madarte tyaktva jivita. They are ready to sacrifice their life for me. So in this way, he is encouraging Dronacharya. And of course, Prabhupada writes in the purport, in other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra. That is the meaning indicated for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhan. Duryodhan, of course, was confident of his victory on account of the above mentioned combined strength of his friends. Now, the 10th verse is very interesting. Now, in the 10th verse, there are two words, aparyaptam and paryaptam. So, the meaning that Srila Prabhupada gives, aparyaptam means immeasurable. Immeasurable, very vast. So he says, aparyaptam tadasmakam. Our strength is immeasurable, very great. Why? Bhalam bhishma birakshitam. Because on our side, who is there? Bhishma, who is very powerful. Therefore, our strength is immeasurable. Whereas the other side, paryaptam tvaidam etesham balam bhima virakshitam. But on the other side, their strength is paryaptam, means limited. Why? Because on their side there is Bhima, who's not as powerful as Bhishma. So this is so by saying this, he's encouraging whom? Dronacharya. He's encouraging Dronacharya that our strength is very powerful because there is Bhishma. Of course, he's not only encouraging Drona, but he's also encouraging Bhishma by glorifying him. That our strength is very powerful because there is Bhishma. The other side is very weak because Bhima is not as powerful as Bhishma. But these two words also have opposite meanings. Aparyaptam, if you see, even in Hindi, paryapta matlab sufficient. Aparyaptam matlab insufficient. So the opposite meaning also holds true. So aparyaptam means our strength is limited. Why? Because there is Bhishma. And Bhishma has a problem. What is his problem? Yes, he has affection for the Pandavas. So, and on the other hand, their strength is paryaptam. Why? Because on their side there is Bhima, and Bhima has no affection for the Kauravas. He is dead against them. He wants to finish them off. So by saying just this one verse, on one hand he's encouraging Dronacharya and Bhishma. On the other hand, he's making Dronacharya alert that we have Bhishma, but there's a problem there. So he's making Dronacharya alert. And at the same time, he is also indicating to Bhishma, don't show affection to the Pandavas now. So you see, by one verse, Duryodhan is diplomatically indicating so many things. Right? So that is Duryodhan's diplomacy. Okay, Prabhupada writes some of these points in his purport. You can read that. And the 11th verse already has been said. So now he has mainly glorified whom? Maharathis. He has only glorified the Maharathis on both sides. So the other soldiers may feel, "Arey, hum to kuch kaam ka hai nahi. We are useless." He has only glorified Maharathis. So therefore, to encourage them, then he says, "Oh, this Bhishma is old man. You know, who knows? The opposite army may attack him and finish him off. So all of you are very important. All of you must protect him from all sides." So in this way, so Prabhupada explains that point in his purport. So in this way, Duryodhan, by these verses, is showing his expert diplomacy. Okay, a few quotes from Prabhupada before we conclude for the day. Okay, please read. Whoever has the mic, please read.
Dronacharya knew, Duryodhana's diplomacy, Dronacharya knew that Drupad Maharaj has got his son. In future, he would kill me. Still, when he was offered to become his disciple to learn military art, he accepted yes. That means the Brahmanas were so liberal. When he is coming as my disciple, never mind, he would kill me in future. That does not matter, but I must give him teaching.
Right. So here Prabhupada is indicating our quality of the Brahmanas, that the Brahmanas are very liberal. So the important quality of the Brahmana is the Brahmana wants to perform duty. Even though he knew that this person is going to be my killer, but still when he came for teaching, he was ready to teach. So that is the quality of Sattva, as we'll see later on in the Gita also. The quality of Sattva Guna is one is attached to performing duty. That's an important. Huh?
Just for the sake of teaching or for accepting disciples also. Because in those cases, we understand that a guru must test his disciples before he accept. And he should not come in this mood, right? He in killing mood, that will be offensive like that.
Right. So, of course, here when he came to learn, he came with the right mood, to learn. Drishtadyumna, he came with the mood to learn because he knew Dronacharya was a good teacher. So he came to learn. And Dronacharya taught him as a teacher. That's all. And of course, he was qualified to learn. Drishtadyumna, he's son of whom? Drupad. So he's a Kshatriya. Yeah, he had the Kshatriya quality. So he was qualified to learn.
So when he came, he did not have that mentality that I will kill Drona.
No, he didn't come with that mentality. I think so. I think so. He was aware. But in any case, he came with the mood to learn, basically. Huh? Yes, basically following dharma. That's right. That's a lot of time for that. Okay, another quote.
Pashyetam Panduputranam Acharya. Bhagavad Gita 1.3. My dear teacher, just see how many military soldiers are standing there on behalf of the Pandavas, and they have been arranged by your disciple, who is bent for killing you. So just remember, that means you become more strong that this boy and the other party may not kill you. But Duryodhan does not know that the death does not depend on military strength or bodily strength. When death will come, nobody can check. Death is God. When Krishna desires that this man should be killed now or he must die now, nobody can check. Rakhe Krishna mare Krishna rakhe ke. If Krishna desires to kill somebody, nobody can give him protection, no power. And if he wants to save somebody, nobody can kill him. This is Krishna's protection.
Yeah, so that's an important point. So ultimately, whatever be Duryodhan's diplomacy and all that, if somebody has to die, he has to die. Okay, so these are basically some of the points. Okay, another, I think the last quotes.
Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. So people may ask that by mentioning these great fighters, what spiritual progress we make? Because we are made for chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So by chanting names of the great fighters, what do we gain? The question may be raised there. But the thing is that Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. Whenever there is a connection with Krishna, that also become Krishna. So these warriors name mentioning, we should not neglect. Krishna wanted to gather all the demoniac power in that battlefield of Kurukshetra and kill them. That was his plan.
Okay, so if somebody may be thinking, why are we reading all these verses? Some names are there. So the reason is, ultimately, everything has connection with Krishna. The battle of Kurukshetra itself has connection with Krishna. All these warriors have connection with Krishna. And so therefore, by reading them, we'll get purified. Okay, read.
Then Duryodhana, first of all, he pointed out the military strength of the opposite side. This is intelligence. One should take calculation of the opposing elements or the enemy's side. In fighting, the first thing is to take estimation of the enemy's side, how much they are strong, how they have arranged. Then one should calculate how to contract, how to fight with them. This is intelligence. Without taking any calculation of the other side, if you are not prepared, then how you can become victorious?
Continue.
Pragya, an intelligent man, not only think of the bright side on this business or this fight or this any, so many things we have to deal with. Simply, we should not calculate the brighter side. There is darker side also. We should always think if there is some thief, if there is some rogue, they cheat us, then what precaution I am going to take? This is intelligence. If I simply calculate that in this business, I will make so much profit. In the meantime, somebody comes and cheats me and go away. Then, therefore, upayan chintayet pragya apayan cha chintayet. Darker side one should be thought of. That is intelligence, just like they are doing. After calculating the darker side, enemy means darker side. They can defeat me at any moment. That is darker side.
Okay, so an important practical point Prabhupada is giving. How one must not only think about the brighter side, but one must also think about the darker side. So for us, so yes, we have the bright side of Krishna consciousness. Krishna is so wonderful. You can go back to Godhead, everything wonderful. But then there's darker side. What is the darker side? Maya is also very powerful, right? And so therefore one must calculate the power of Maya and also know how one can counteract the effects of Maya. And that is why it is said one must study both anartha nivritti and artha prapti. So, and we find Prabhupada's focused so much on the anartha nivritti part. So now that we just speak about the nice Leela and everything wonderful, everything beautiful, but then what about all the anarthas? So we should know how to deal with that enemy, the anartha also. So some practical points, Prabhupada. Okay, the next section is from 14 to 20, which are signs of victory for the Pandavas. So this is your homework. So please make a list of signs of victory for the Pandavas in this verses from 14 to 20. All right? And we will begin the discussion from that point tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Please do try to read the rest of the first chapter. That is what we will definitely be finishing tomorrow. And then if time permits, we'll also begin the second chapter. Hare Krishna.